We get started here in just a moment. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody out to our City Council meeting for Harriman City on Wednesday, November 13th, 2019. We are going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be offered by Candace Perucci.
Please stand. Please repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And with that, as many people know, our representative at the state, John Notwell, has stepped down from that position, and since then we have a new representative, and she is actually here today, and so we're going to invite Candace Perucci back up to the podium to introduce herself. And welcome, thank you for offering our pledge today.
Great, thank you so much for giving me a couple minutes. So I just wanted to officially introduce myself. I know a lot of you. I am still working on getting business cards and getting my office set up, but I wanted to let you know my legislative email's set. I know I'll be meeting with a lot of you this week, and I appreciate everyone who's here. But just in a nutshell, I grew up in Herriman. I'm a product of this area. My family's been here for 17 years, and I love our community, and I'm excited to work closely with you to make sure the southwest corner of our valley has a strong voice. So my legislative email is cperucci, and that's C as in cat, and then PIERUCCI@le.utah.gov, and I'll make sure I email you guys tonight, and I'll also include my legislative phone number. So that goes for all council members and staff, and then everyone here in the community. I want to be accessible and encourage community-driven solutions. So thanks for your time, guys.
Thank you, we appreciate it. And we appreciate anybody who is willing to put themselves in front of the public and do what they can to make our city a little bit a better place. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. All right. Any comments or recognitions by the other members of the council?
I'll just quickly say how much I appreciated the Veterans Day flag raising. That was a great event to come to, and just really how grateful I am for the veterans, that those who are currently serving, those who have served, all of our military, what a value they are to us, and just to say thank you.
I will just echo those comments. It was a good ceremony.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to the public comment portion of our meeting. Audience members may bring any item to the City Council's attention. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes. State law does prohibit this council from acting on items that have not appeared on our agenda. So please, if you'd like to make comment at this time, come up to the podium, state your name, and give us your comment. Okay, seeing none, we will close the public comment portion of our meeting. Any City Council board or committee reports?
I do. The not waste management, I always say the wrong thing. Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling District is having their budget hearing. Will be this coming Monday, the 18th at 6 p.m. at their Midvale location. That's 604 West, 6960 South. And that is obviously a public meeting to come if you want to have any input on that budget. There will be a fee increase with that budget, not for the monthly garbage pickup, but for new residents. So if you have a new home and a new service, then the fee will go from $50 to $100, and that's just simply to cover the cost of the cans. They've been subsidizing the cost of the cans, and so the fee will increase to cover the cost of 2 cans, both the recycle and the garbage can.
That's just a one-time fee?
And there's a $10 delivery fee, which has always been. So that fee will increase $50. That will be part of that public hearing. So if anybody would like to participate or like to come and learn about the budget there, that hearing is Monday at 6 p.m. And then the Mosquito Abatement District will also be having their budget hearing. It will be on December 9th at 6 p.m. and their address is 7308 Airport Road in West Jordan. Same issue there. They're not raising fees, but if you'd like to come and listen to the budget hearing, that obviously is a public meeting and public is encouraged to attend so you can understand what goes into that budget. Both of those budgets can be accessed by request at either of those entities. So if you'd like a copy of the budget prior to the meeting, you can request it by giving them a call. That's all.
Along those same lines, the South Valley Sewer District will be holding their budget hearings next Tuesday evening. So this will be Tuesday, November the 19th at 6 p.m. at their district offices located at 1253 West Jordan Basin Lane. That's down on the river bottom. Again, they are not proposing any rate increases for their services this year. This will be a review of their upcoming budget with, again, no increases in there, and a review of their consolidated fee schedule. So I believe that you can find a copy of their agenda online as well. So.
Okay. All right, moving on, we will go to item 8.1, recognition of a garden committee chair. Wendy Thomas. These are the fun ones.
So this is Shauna Heiner, and she and her husband, who should be up here as well,
Oh, come on up.
have been, it's been officially Shauna, but her husband has been a great asset to us as well for our garden, our community gardens and our garden committee. My understanding is that Shauna would like to spend more time gardening and not managing.
Yep.
So she's going to stay with us at the garden
Yep.
and just enjoy. So we decided instead of a plaque to get her some tools
Nice.
to use
They're so nice.
for her plot and a little garden angel to remind her that she is one of our community angels. So
Thank
thank
you.
you. It's been a pleasure. Do you want to say anything?
Not really. I was just going to give kind of a general overhaul of what we did this year at the garden as far as donations went, because I thought it was pretty fantastic. So we had 5 extra plots at the back of the garden, so we planned them specifically to donate to the St. Andrew's Food Bank over in Riverton. And we donated from those plots 2,647 pounds. And then the youth council from the garden as a whole donated 327 pounds. So we donated 2,974 pounds this year to the food bank that services the Herriman residents who request food. So that was just kind of a big hurrah of one thing that we did at the garden this year.
Literally a
that was so
ton and a
great.
half of food. That's amazing.
Yeah. It was up, I can't remember last year. Last year was about 2,000 pounds, somewhere out there. So we increased it by almost 800 pounds. So,
That's
but
amazing.
yeah.
Well, we would love if you would, grace us and let us take a picture with you for just a moment. And we appreciate and recognize you for all that you've done, and everything that you've done as well. This is an extremely vital part of creating a community, and we're happy to have people that are willing to put the time and effort into it. So
We
thank
love
you.
the garden, so anything we can do to support it.
Thank you. So unfortunately, that also means we have an opening for garden chair. So if council knows of anyone that would be interested in taking that position, they work closely with staff.
I think he's just about to sit down.
Oh. We'll be opening that back up when we redo our committees in the spring. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will move on to item 8.2, Life Saving Award. Chief Pilgrim.
All right, Mayor and Council, I'm excited to be up here tonight. I'm actually going to turn the time over to Battalion Chief Wade Watkins to present the award to Officer Casey Davies. So I'll let Wade take the floor here for a minute.
Mayor and Council, I have another great life-saving award. This is a little bit unique. Timing happened before the formation of HPD. and this is going to involve then Officer Casey Davies. So this is addressed to a supervisor of this neighboring law enforcement agency, and it is from one of our highly respected UFA captains that participated in this emergency incident. It reads, I want to make you aware of what a great job of your police officers did on March 22nd, 2018. The call I'm referring to is an electrocution full arrest of a young citizen. The first arriving officers initiated good quality CPR prior to our arrival. The expertise and professionalism they showed made it necessary to include them in the CPR rotation with the EMS fire crew. I believe these officers strongly created a positive outcome we continue to hope for. It was amazing to see two different types of emergency professional groups come together and act as a single trained professional team. This is a perfect example of what occurs when everyone works together with the intention of a positive result. I'm incredibly impressed at how serious they took their CPR training and how knowledgeable they are in regards to it. I was amazed at when directed, they stood in line and to take over CPR compressions for the next 2 cycles, the next 2-minute cycles. That was textbook pit crew CPR. So in this scenario, when you're rendering CPR, you're working as a team and you're working as cohesive as you possibly can be. The citizen ultimately made a recovery, and he writes in here, please know that Officer Davies and his fellow officers are amazing and they did an incredible job. Thank you for allowing me to be part of the team. Respectfully, Captain Jubal Perez. So in this vein, I was just reflecting on this letter, and I do know Casey Davies from previous work experience prior to this, and he adds so much to the culture and to the mission of what we're doing in this community. Words that come to my mind that describe this are a force multiplier. When we're running an incident and we see now Sergeant Davies walk into the scene, your confidence is there. You know that he has your support. You know that he has your back. These are all things that are very important to this side of the house and to this effort. Teamwork is always there. Synergy is always there. You know that collaborative effort is always there. And his assertiveness as a peace officer in this community is amazing from my perspective. So I'd like you to come up and we're going to present this life-saving award. And I'd like to get a picture too of you and your family, your beautiful daughters and your wife. I wish you brought your Labradoodle, but that's another conversation for another day. So here is the award to Sergeant Casey Davies, and there is your Life-Saving Award Challenge, which I'm sure you will have more in the future. Awesome. Thank you. Can we have Mayor and Council come up and we'll get some pictures real quick?
Love to. Any thoughts? Please, any thoughts?
Any thoughts?
Yeah.
No, I just appreciate the opportunity you guys giving us. kind of the culture here. It kind of drew us here. I know for me and my family, we've never been happier, and so we're ecstatic to be here and look forward to the long time. So I appreciate every one of you guys giving us the chance and trusting us with that opportunity to show what we have and what we can do for you guys. So appreciate it.
I know I speak on behalf of the council when we express our gratitude. And regardless of whether it was with this department or another department, someone who saves a life deserves recognition. And we are extremely grateful to have the caliber and level of people that we have in our department, and our community tells us on a regular basis how happy they are with the service that they're being provided with. So thank you for what you do, and
Always our pleasure. So.
we look forward to continuing to have you serve our community.
Great. Thank you.
Any thoughts or comments by the council?
Yeah, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
No
All right,
worries.
now you can go home. All right, we will move on to item 9.1. Public hearing and consideration of a resolution amending the 2019-2020 Harriman City budget. Alan.
Mayor, council, we've talked a little bit about this budget amendment in our previous work meeting. We actually have 3 more items for your consideration in this meeting than what you've heard prior, though you've heard of some of these items. First of all, we have in this budget amendment for an IT manager with salary and burden of $55,000 plus $22,000, a director of economic development with salary and burden of $60,000 and $24,000. One of the items you haven't seen before, though we talked about it at the last meeting, is we are preparing a proposal to be the opening stage host of the Tour of Utah in August. Some of that cost is going to happen in this fiscal year, so we're asking that that be budgeted at this point. We've not been awarded it at this point, so if it's not, we're not going to be using the funds, but if it is awarded, we want to be to where we can react to that. All of these 3 items will result in a reduction of fund balance in the general fund of $191,000.
And on both of those salaries, those are partial years, correct?
They are. We're looking at, well, who knows? We've interviewed on the IT position at this point, have decided to advertise it. We're still looking for that person. And I can't tell you the status of the Director of Economic Development at this point.
Alan, I would, just a question. So half a year salary, there's only $5,000 separating the IT manager from the Director of Economic Development, which I'm assuming is only a $10,000 difference on an annual basis. It seems tight to me. And more importantly, I wonder if we've allotted enough money to get a Director of Economic Development of the caliber that we need to make significant impact in our
Okay,
city.
first of all, they're not that close because we were expecting the IT manager to be 8 months versus 6 for the Economic Development Director. And that may not even happen when we're at 6. So there's not that
Okay, it's not as tight as it appears.
Right.
Okay, so then my only comment would be the latter comment that I made, and let's just make sure, again, these are 50-year development decisions that are being made. I want to make sure we have a candidate that really positions us where we need to be to get, the projects we need to. So 60 is great. It seems just a little low for Director of Economic Development.
Just know that I don't set what
I
these
know, I
values
know.
are because
Messenger.
we go through our HR where they look at the market and what that is. This number came from our HR manager
Okay.
rather than, I'm one who accounts for it. So,
Do you have a salary range?
okay. Next, we've just got a couple of things in the Water Impact Department here. First of all, earlier this year, the council approved a $500,000 budget for the design of the East Herriman Water Project. The quote, the bids have gone out, they've come back. Our lowest one was $623,537. So we're asking for an extra $123,537. As I said, this is coming from impact fees, and it's, the money exists there for this project. The other one is, as you know, many of our water projects, many of our infrastructure projects are paid by developers with a reimbursement agreement that we reimburse them at the time that we collect the impact fees. So currently we have, and this was unexpected, Rockwell Landing Scenic Development has not only completed the work in their area, but the impact fees have been collected. So we're asking that this be approved to make this reimbursement. That's all we're requesting at this time.
Okay. Any questions by staff? Or not by staff, by members of the council? Okay, so this item's up for a public hearing. So we will, in a moment, open that for that public hearing. Please note that the same rules will apply as earlier. There will be a two-minute limit. If you would like to make a public comment, we'll ask you to come up to the podium and state your name. With that, I'll open the public hearing at this time. Seeing none, I will accept a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that motion has passed and that public hearing is closed. Any further discussion from the council?
Only I would just echo what Nicole said about just being really cognizant of the salary on that. We want to, you know, obviously we want to be responsible fiscally and not overpay, but we definitely want to get somebody very qualified and not push people out the door because of that issue.
I agree as well. Okay. Any further comments or questions? Nope. I would accept a motion on this item.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve resolution number R37-2019, approving an amendment to the Harriman City fiscal year 2019-2020 budget.
I will second.
Motion is second. Sherry?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
I vote yes, that motion passes. All right, I'll move on to the consent agenda.
I'll make, go ahead, Sherry.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
I will second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Clint?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
I vote yes, that motion passes. All right, item 11.1, discussion and consideration of a resolution nominating individuals to be appointed to the Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District Board. And we'll send that over to Brett. Item 11.1.
Water names. Might have
11.
Jordan Valley Water Conservancy Board names.
Sorry, this is a council actually appointment. I look for direction from the council to what names you want to submit to the governor. And I've heard offline a little bit, but I need clear direction how you want them. I've heard two names. So I need to know if we're going with one name or two names to recommend to the governor. And then what order you want those in.
So we are going with Sherry, who would be our first choice. I believe that's.
Yeah, I think so too.
And then we're going with Councilwoman McKay in Riverton
As our second.
as our second.
Okay?
Yes.
So if you would put those in the record, recorder, put those names on that line for the resolution and move forward and pass it.
And just for public consumption, we have one position for Riverton, Harriman, and Bluffdale on that board. So that's why there's a Riverton councilwoman's name going on that, recommendations to the governor, and he's the one that will appoint whoever he decides should be serving on that. But we just get one for all three cities.
Okay, any further discussion?
Nope.
Accept a motion.
I will make a motion to approve resolution number R38-2019, nominating Sherry Orn and Tawny McKay for appointment to the Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District Board.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. Nicole?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, that motion passes. 11.2, discussion and consideration of an ordinance to approve the Herriman City Moderate Income Housing Plan. City Planning, our city planner, Michael Malloy.
Thank you, and I will be introducing our presentation by our general plan update consultant, Ms. Pethram with FFKR Architects. This is a presentation that'll be familiar for most of our council members. It was given at our joint Planning Commission and City Council meeting 2 weeks ago. As you know, the state requires certain elements to be within our general plan. And last legislative session, they increased that requirement dealing with moderate income housing and tying our plans for moderate income housing to transportation funding that the state awards. So if we fail to do this, it limits our ability to receive transportation funds from the state. So it has received, this request that's before you tonight has received a positive recommendation from the Planning Commission as an element of the general plan. We're doing this ahead of the adoption of the broader update because there was a deadline by the state to have this portion done by December 1st. So again, we're going to have our consultant come up, make this presentation, take any of your comments if you have any. We are proposing that you adopt this tonight, given the timeline that we're dealing with, but we're able to take any of your concerns and add them to the proposal if necessary. So, Susie.
Beautiful slide. Oh.
It's great. It's coming up, so. As we get started, one of the things that I just wanted to point out as we discussed with the Planning Commission that what we're presenting in this moderate income housing plan is essentially moving forward the key strategies from your previous moderate income housing element and just showing how they match the state mandated strategies. They have a menu of items, and we just wanted to go through and show how Harriman in the past has already been meeting those strategies and moving forward the direction we're going. So that previous plan was adopted back in December 2013. Just a summary of the key issues: life cycle housing and affordability were concerns back then. They remain concerns today, both in Herriman and the region. With a lot of single-family homes, there weren't that many affordable options for different income levels and demographic needs. That was a concern as Harriman grew. But with the construction of those 2 apartment units back then, it brought the affordable units up to 25% of all of the housing units in Harriman back then, which was just over 7,000 units. So 1,830 units were considered affordable back then. Most of the units were single-family residences. There were condos and some apartments, as well as a few duplexes, modular homes, and manufactured homes. So the housing stock has changed a little bit in the last 4 to 5 years. The main goals and recommendations of that Harriman 2025 plan were to make sure that multifamily areas were designated in the future land use, to help streamline some of the development process, to encourage more multifamily development, to diversify the housing stock, and allow a range of different types to help buffer single-family residence neighborhoods with some of the commercial and downtown areas that were emerging. So a few of the other things, just considering the potential for that Salt Lake Community College campus and having some higher density nearby so that students could live close to the campus, as well as considering accessory dwelling units in a broader scale, and thinking about planned unit development neighborhoods that have some smaller lots but cluster the open space. So the key takeaways were just understanding that unmonitored growth could lead to future imbalances in affordability as well as those life cycle housing demands. Knowing that the town center and the development around that could help to serve some of those 20 to 30-year-olds, which are a lower demographic in the city, and also serving the 65 and older with a range of housing types, including townhomes, condos, and assisted living communities. One of the things to note was that back then, as well as today, that Herriman also has the opportunity to cater to some higher incomes with the luxury home market, which in a way serves to help filter up housing types and bring them affordable. So what do we know now? Just some key stats.
Almost 12,000 housing units in 2018 were recorded in the Salt Lake County Assessor's database. We know planning staff has provided a higher number. One of the things we pointed out is just that we need the information that not only has the amount of units, but the assessed value, so that we can evaluate the affordability of those units. So there is a discrepancy in the numbers, but that's why we just need to have all of that data to evaluate affordability. Given the categorization of how the assessor treats single-family homes, 84% of your units are still categorized as single-family in that database. That includes the townhomes and those planned unit development dwellings. There's still 472 condo units, but we now have the 4 apartment complexes with 1,387 total units. Thinking about median income and housing allowances is how affordability is assessed. For the county, household size is just over 3 members per household, 3.01. The moderate income is $57,600, and that means the moderate income housing allowance for 80% of AMI is $1,440. When you go to 50% of AMI and 30% of AMI, those housing allowances go down to just $900 and $540. So those are the 3 levels that cities are asked to track as far as the number of units that are available for serving the fair share of that population. So right now we know that there still is a reasonable opportunity for moderate income households to live in Herriman. The total units as of 2018 is just over 2,000, so 2,006 units, which is an increase of 176 from the numbers in the 2013 plan. The units, the percentage of the total has gone down to just 16.8%. From that 25%. And one thing to note is that of the apartments, the 1,387 apartments, just 68% are affordable for households that make 80% of the area median income. And so right now there's a small surplus for that 80% AMI of 182 units. So moving forward, we know that Harriman will need to keep track of how it's providing for those incomes. We do know that it's challenging for lower income households to live in Herriman, and that's those making 50% AMI or less. There's 773 households who earn 50% or less, and right now there's only about 10 housing units that are available for those households. So the shortage that Herriman shows is on those lower income households, the 30 to 50% AMI, and a shortage of about 763 units. We do know, thinking ahead, what are the needs for the next 5 years, that single-family homes are becoming less affordable to people, and that's just the rising property values that are going on region-wide, and that another 625 affordable units will be needed in the next 5 years to serve the population projections. We know that based on current development agreements that an additional 4,937 single-family units are going to be built and 2,434 multifamily units. We expect that some of those will be built in the next 5 years and will probably help address the needed affordable housing units. So we feel like Herriman is in pretty good shape, but just needs to make sure that we're tracking the progress. So what's in this proposed moderate income housing plan we're asking you to adopt tonight? Just some minor updates to the Herriman 2025 plan to reflect the compliance with SB 34. We've shifted some of the language a little bit, just to have one clearly stated goal and 5 objectives, outlining what the city wants to achieve in regard to moderate income housing, and then 7 strategies for making it happen. What we're going to show is how those strategies match the SB 34 strategies, the menu of items in the new code. The overall goal for Herriman in regard to affordable housing, just to ensure the city maintains a reasonable affordability and provides housing choices through times of rapid population growth and varying development trends. Those 5 objectives: number 1, ensure affordable housing grows proportionally with the standard residential development. Number 2, continue to guide development of assisted living, congregate care, and other affordable housing options to ensure that residents can stay through Herriman through all stages of life as they age. Number 3, looking at providing for affordability and life cycle housing concerns through the development of housing options, including multifamily housing that maintain the desired character of Herriman. Support those affordable housing options that address the needs of lower to moderate income households and individuals, and offer options for a range of demographics and lifestyles. Number 4, disperse the multifamily developments throughout the city such that there's not a concentration of multifamily dwellings in any one neighborhood or development area. Also providing desirable affordable housing options that integrate well into surrounding neighborhood contexts. And the fifth objective is to provide that opportunity for affordable home ownership by offering a range of housing types, including attached dwellings for purchase. The SB 34 strategies that are used in Herriman, there's 6 that we evaluated as being compliant with the strategies that Herriman has been following so far. Each city that is required to do a housing income or moderate income housing plan is supposed to show compliance with at least 3. So we know that Herriman is in good shape. Rezoning for densities necessary to assure production of moderate income housing, facilitating infrastructure that'll encourage the construction of moderate income housing, making sure that you're reducing regulations that are related to accessory dwelling units, allowing for higher density or moderate income residential in commercial and mixed use zones, commercial centers, employment centers, encouraging higher density or moderate income residential development near transit investment corridors, and preserving existing moderate income housing. So what are the proposed strategies? The first one is carefully monitoring your affordability in proportion to overall residential development to ensure that affordable housing needs are anticipated. Maintain the existing Section 42 housing. This meets that strategy L. The second strategy, allowing for multifamily or townhome mixed-use development to service buffers between commercial and single-family residential areas, as well as in the town center, the city's downtown. This meets code strategies F and G. Strategy number 3, consider accessory dwelling units in appropriate areas. Allow for ADUs, including detached units, to be integrated into residential neighborhoods. This meets that strategy E. Strategy number 4, support the higher density or moderate income residential development in the mixed-use town center, as well as near the future Salt Lake Community College campus and adjacent to commercial and employment centers by ensuring the zoning designations allow those options. This meets 3 strategies, A, F, and G. Strategy number 5, continue to encourage some planned unit development neighborhoods with smaller lot sizes that support the integration of small lot sizes into developments that offer a mix of housing within the same neighborhood. This meets strategies A and B. Strategy number 6 is require the higher standards of design, function, and appearance for all multifamily development. The building styles of multifamily development should be compatible and harmonious with surrounding adjoining buildings. This is a strategy that right now doesn't meet any of the state code strategies, but was one that was in the previous plan, so we wanted to offer that as an option for including in this version as well. The last strategy is to designate areas in the future land use and development framework where multifamily development will be permitted to take advantage of existing and planned infrastructure. Supporting a range of multifamily housing types, including townhomes, row homes, duplexes, and such that appeal to a variety of population demographics, including younger and older individuals. This meets that state code strategy B. So that's the summary of the different strategies. One of the things that we wanted to make note of are some of the comments that the Planning Commission made at that October 30th meeting. The main one was in regard to strategy number 6, about the standards of design and whether or not that's unintentionally creating housing options that are a higher price point. So anything that requires, a higher price point or higher standards with development passed on to the renter or the owner. So that's something that may or may not be compatible with moderate income housing goals. The other one that had some comments was the disbursement in objective number 4. And the question was, can we clarify that that disbursement is matched with where the transportation or transit infrastructure is going to take place? And so just clarifying some of the language on objective 4. So those were the main questions that the Planning Commission had, and we just want to open it up to any questions or discussion from the council.
When, I know as we're talking, you just mentioned the higher price of development may lead to higher priced homes, therefore leading to less affordable housing. But can't you also called out that there's room for a luxury market as well. And if we were to, to increase the number of high-end homes in our community, we'd also increase the the median income, correct? You know, most likely would increase the median income, which would also affect that percentage as well. Is that correct?
It could. It could also just offer options for people that currently live in Herriman but are looking for sort of that next move up in their home type. And so it's something that right now Herriman has a pretty high median income, and the amount of homes that are on the upper end are a lower percentage, and it's felt like there's availability for people that have a higher income to move into new housing if that were to be constructed. So that's just, it's an indirect strategy, but it is something for the city to consider.
So a couple of mine are more philosophical things, because even in objective 1, it says ensure affordable housing grows proportionally with standard residential development, which is really difficult because we don't control affordability. We control zoning, but we don't control affordability. So to me, it's an objective that we're saying that it's not even in our power to achieve. And a lot of these just follow right along with that. We don't control the price of land. We don't control the price of building products. We don't control the labor costs that go into these kinds of things. So that's really difficult. One thing that we do, like you just said, was the standards. But then the question is, do we lower our standards so that in 10 years this housing units all fall apart and we have issues constantly with that, and really create a blight of people that don't want to live there because of that? So, I mean, those are obviously kind of philosophical, but I have huge issues with those. And again, I had written down the same as the Planning Commission, the dispersed multifamily developments for the city. In some cities that works if there's a lot of infrastructure that's designed around, if you're in the middle of a few corridors or something like that, that makes sense. But it doesn't work in Harriman because we don't want to because if you go further on in the slides, we talk about putting those developments next to infrastructure. Well, you can't disperse them all out through the city and then meet the other objective to have them next to infrastructure. So it contradicts each other. And those are I just have a concern, but I've addressed this concern at the legislature too, because it's trying to make cities responsible for this, and it's simply not. Multifamily does not equate to affordability.
Yeah, and I think it's just the message is that it's not one strategy or approach is going to provide that affordable housing fair share, and just ensuring that you're taking several different tactics and approaches. It's a tricky issue, it's complex, but if cities didn't do anything and it was controlled by the market, we wouldn't solve it that way either.
It's hard. It's a lot of difficulties, and I'm glad I'm not in your position trying to write these down.
I think one of the things that this does show, as we look through what we've done in the past and what we're doing now, is that Harriman City has always been working towards making sure that our housing is affordable to those who want to come live here. And so as I look past you to somebody sitting behind you, I might say that we look for help from the state legislature to make sure that we have the infrastructure needs, the infrastructure needed to continue that process and be part of the solution together. So I'm sure that that's something that many cities will say to their legislators, and I would hope that as we move forward that we can all work together to find those solutions that work in tandem, so that, for example, a tracks line through our city would help us move forward towards putting those developments near a transit corridor that they could use and could be more affordable, especially when you consider the transportation costs here in Harriman, considering the vast majority of our residents, as we talked about, the vast majority of our residents take their cars back and forth to work because they don't have those options, even though they would if they could. So I think this does a good job of showing that we've been doing that for some time. We will continue to do that, and we just hope that, and we look to those legislators to help out as well, as we all try to work together to resolve this housing issue that is before us.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just a quick one, Sherry. Just in terms of phrasing as well, the state, in looking, and the county in looking for solutions, use affordable housing, but also attainable housing. So I'd suggest we weave in attainable housing as well, because that's the speak that you're seeing across the Salt Lake County, across the state.
Sorry, I know Senator Andrick, when he was doing this bill, I think part of that bill got stripped out was the funding, because that's the key to it. It's like, if there's some funding that helps things drive down those costs, then things take a different turn. But another issue that we have, back to what they were talking about with transportation, was in the report you presented to us a couple of weeks ago, or last week, I can't remember, 2 weeks ago. The average Harriman resident spends $16,500 a year on transportation. So I say to you that if somebody is in a low-income status, if they're spending $16,000 to live out here, to drive into their jobs, that is further complicates their financial problems. So if we don't have solutions to help take away that burden, at some point it won't matter what the house costs, they can't afford to get to their job. Anyway, bigger than this, maybe not a good conversation to have here, but so many things go into this that it's just,
We're just taking the opportunity to educate
Yeah.
those that are here in attendance tonight. That's all
it's
we're
just
doing.
unrealistic to think that this will solve that. I don't disagree that we need to try and play a role, but it's just not where it's going to get solved.
And I think just, continuing to offer and support a diversity of housing types is really, the overall message for most communities, and looking to see, how that's helping to meet those affordable needs, and looking at that comparison between 2013 and today. That strategy, that Herriman outlined has done a pretty good job to keep you in, the green as far as offering those affordable options.
What we're saying is we are part of the solution.
You are part of the solution, exactly.
I'll just make a quick comment, really tying into what Sherry already mentioned, and that is again, I think as a community we are doing our part the best we can. But to Sherry's point, this really can't be done just at a municipal level. There's two sides of this, and I'm grateful that our new representative is here tonight to hear it, because we're going to put her to work up there. Because the other side of this is, as we talk about being able to offer this and quality of life and all of those things, the transportation component becomes so integral to this being successful and being able to do it. Again, as you talk about disbursement and all of those things, we've always said that we want to put, it's only feasible to put that higher density near the major transit corridors, and we are very, very limited out here unless we get additional funding to help improve those transit corridors, to improve the options that are out there. So again, I think the message is just that we as a community, we are doing a pretty good job of doing that. But in order for us to do better, or at least have the opportunity to do better and to do more, there has to be another component of that to allow us the ability to do so. And most of that is on the, for me, is on the transportation side of things.
Okay, any further?
Probably not at all what you needed to hear tonight, sorry.
We know you're stuck in the middle.
Yeah. One quick question, and I know actually David brought this up in our work meeting, speaking about the accessory dwelling units. If you go back to that one that's listed in there, and I think the verbiage that's in there is that we encourage. If we can find that one again.
Right there, started with 3.
Strategy number 3 was to
Yes.
consider ADUs, including detached units. So right now, accessory dwelling units are allowed in the agricultural zone, but it's within the main dwelling unit. So essentially a basement apartment or a separate area that's a mother-in-law. Looking at sort of expanding that definition of ADU and which residential zones it's allowed in. It's a twofold approach. It not only offers an affordable accessory dwelling unit to a renter, it offers an affordable home ownership situation by allowing somebody to essentially have an on-site renter that helps to pay the mortgage payment. So it increases the price point that somebody can afford from a home ownership perspective as well.
So the intent, I guess my understanding is the intent of putting this in here as one of those things to consider is, again, to try and open that up possibly in more zones currently within the city, but there's
correct
potentially a host of other things that need to be considered when doing so. And as we talk about transportation and that's vehicles and parking and all those other things, which make it very, very challenging. So just wanted a little clarification on that item.
This just commits us to consider.
So, but that's a great point that I wanted to make sure the city understands, is that with the new rules, the new code language, that cities are now required to report annually. So it's not a biannual, it's annually, and it's a much more detailed report about how you're tracking progress, how you're meeting those goals, if you haven't met those goals, why you're seeing unintended results. It's a much more detailed reporting system to make sure that cities are tracking, how that progress is being made and whether or not it's achieving the goals. So if you're considering ADUs, did you actually, what was the first step? Did you look at where it's allowed? Did you implement it? So being a little bit more specific in the strategies that you're outlining in these moderate income housing plans.
Thank you.
Any further discussion by the council? If there's no further discussion, I have to accept a motion of some sort.
You guys too.
She said you guys do it.
Okay, I'll do it. Hold on.
It doesn't matter to me.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2019-33, adopting a moderate income housing plan as an element of the general plan.
I will second.
Motion a second. Nicole?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
I vote yes, the motion passes.
Note the reluctance.
Thank you.
Would you like to add any comment about that at this point, Sherry?
Not any more than
All
I've
right.
already commented.
Thank
Mayor
you very
Watts?
much. We appreciate it.
Mayor Watts, if I may. So this will be included in the final draft of the general plan, and you'll be able to see how it relates to, for example, the transportation element, and if there are any necessary tweaks or amendments, some of the wordsmithing we talked about tonight, we can certainly revisit that in a few months when that final draft comes back to the council for action.
Thank you for that clarification. We appreciate that. Thank you. We know you put a lot of work into this. All right, last item is item 11.3, discussion and consideration of an ordinance approving the hydraulics analysis fee schedule. Jonathan.
Evening, Council. The engineering department is proposing that we add an additional fee to developer applicants for hydraulic analysis for each development. And a little bit of background on that. So, Herriman City is required by state to hydraulically model each development, or excuse me, new construction for water systems as they come in to make sure that they're adequately sized as well as not adversely affecting existing infrastructure. And that rule was effective January 2014. And right now, the engineering fees do not include that effort. So obviously, for that reason, we're looking to do that. However, we have been doing this historically, and the way we've been doing that is we have a city model that we hold internally that we would give information from that model to the developer, and then the developer, with their model or the information that we give them, they would create an analysis and a report and that we would pass along to the state. What we're proposing to change at this point is we've hired a consultant who will now take the analysis and do all of it, essentially do the analysis and the report, and then the developer would no longer have to be doing that analysis. Now, the trade-off there is then we would just charge a fee to the developer to provide that analysis that our consultant is providing. One thing that we did consider was we simply just take the invoice and the fee from our consultant and pass it along to the developer. And this had a little bit of, implied some logistical issues, and we thought to simplify it, we would assess a fee based on units or acreage. So that would be, fee would be based on gross acreage for multifamily commercial projects or number of units for single-family projects. And then, obviously, for larger projects that require analysis on the upfront end, even prior to final engineering stage, we would assess an hourly fee to take a look at master planning prior to the final engineering phase. So this consultant, they do these types of services. They have done it for other cities. They've also been doing it for us for just a little while. And they are looking at what it takes to do this, and they came up with a fee that would essentially cover the cost to do that, which is what you're seeing right here. So $50 per acre for multifamily or commercial, obviously the 500 minimum. Then $10 per unit for single-family projects, again with the $500 unit, and then again $125 per hour on those larger projects that require some analysis prior to final engineering. So then they're proposing an ordinance for that.
So the only question I have is just even bleeds over into the last conversation is anytime we have fees, they're intended to cover the cost, not to enrich the city or whatever people think. This is just simply to cover the cost, and we're passing, this is a cost that's associated with this. We're not adding a fee that's exaggerated or anything, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion by the council?
Yeah, I've got a question. So if you go back a slide or two for me, Jonathan. One more. So we're requiring this currently for any of the developers to do and bring that data, that analysis into the city, right?
We are, yes.
So when we talk about the fee to do it, are typically they paying an outside firm to do that for them, or do some of these have their own in-house so that, again, there may be some type of argument that it wasn't costing them something, now it is? How do they generally come about that information that we currently require?
That's a good question. So unless they have a consultant who likes to do things for free, you're absolutely right. They would be required to pay a consultant to do this exact analysis. And the advantage here, a couple advantages are we have a consultant that has a calibrated model to our citywide model. And then they kind of do this, not necessarily an economy of scale, but this is their business model. This is what they do. And we're hoping that ends up being cost savings for the developer to offset that what they otherwise would have had to have paid.
That's awesome.
Okay, and the other piece that you just hit on there was clearly we think that there is a benefit to the city this way because we are using a firm that is using our model.
That's correct.
Rather than, I guess, if somebody uses an outside firm that could have data that doesn't exactly match what our models show, we could get some erroneous information back.
Yeah, and historically what we do is prior to this, I would give them the information that they need to mimic what our city model looks like to put it to their parameters, but it was a little more hodgy-podgy for lack of a better term. This is a little more continuous and calibrated model, I would say, when they're doing this approach.
But again, the intent here is this fee is just to cover the costs of that service now being provided in-house, which should be very close to what it was costing them on their own, if not more.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, I'll accept a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2019-34, amending the engineering review fees to add a hydraulic analysis fee.
I will second.
Okay, motion and second. Sherry?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
I vote yes, that motion passes. All right, that brings us to the end of our regular meeting agenda. Please note that our next Planning Commission meeting will be November 21st at 7 p.m. Our next City Council meeting will not be until December. We will not have a council meeting the day before Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is the 28th of November. The offices will be closed on the 29th of Thanksgiving as well, or 29th of November as well. With that, I will accept a motion to adjourn and go back into our work meeting. It looks like we have one more item.
So we have the Board of Canvassers meeting next Tuesday.
Yes, Board of Canvassers next Tuesday.
At what time? 5 o'clock, right here.
So that Board of Canvassers meeting will certify the election results from our recent City Council elections. So
Steve would very much appreciate us
Yes.
having that meeting next
He would,
week.
I'm not sure. Maybe
Maybe
he's
not.
making his. So that will be next Tuesday at 5 p.m.
Do you want to go to work or to closed? Do you want to go to work or to closed?
Work, no
Okay, so we will.
I'll make a motion to adjourn to back to our work meeting.
like that.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.